Hello everyone, I just wanted to share something I realized about the ego, the intellect, and the chaos nature. Now, beginning with the chaos nature in us all, the chaos nature fears the intellect. Now, why does the chaos nature in us all fear the intellect? The chaos nature fears the intellect because it can quantify it. It can compartmentalize its parts and understand it. Now, the chaos nature is basically um, the inability to be quantified. Now, how does the intellect quantify it as a result? The chaos nature will always be the opposite of stability. It will always be the opposite of order, and it will always be the opposite of that which is constant. Anything that is constant is the opposite of chaos. Anything that can be said to perform this action or do this thing or be this emotion, anything that can be quantified in that way is the opposite of the chaos nature. So the chaos nature can be quantified in that way just by evaluating it as being opposite of everything that is orderly. Now, the chaos nature is afraid of something, and it's afraid of the intellect. The intellect can quantify it, thus, the chaos nature is afraid of the intellect. The intellect can basically call its shots by calling the opposite of what order is effective in. And because of that, the chaos nature is afraid of the intellect. But what is the intellect afraid of? The intellect within every person, and the chaos nature exists in every person. The intellect exists in every person. The ego exists in every person. The chaos nature is afraid of the intellect, but the intellect is afraid of ego. Now, the ego is a choice. It's sentience. It's the most complete part of sentience that exists in a human being. It's from the point which we choose. The ego can choose to embrace the chaos nature in a number of things: emotional, action, strength, choosing what is strength, either physical exertion and dominance, or inner transformation and inner understanding and order, and the inner conquest. The ego can choose these things. It can choose whether it acts in a chaotic manner or if it acts towards the betterment of itself and others. And this is the reason why the ego can't be quantified by the intellect, because the ego has that seat of choice that the intellect simply can't decide or quantify the choices that the ego will make. The intellect can't say that the ego will do this or that in specific instances, even if all the factors are there, because the ego provides the human being with choice, the sentient soul with choice. And that's why the intellect, I think, fears the ego. Now, what does the ego fear? The ego fears, and this is a circle, if you're starting to see a pattern. This is a circle of fear, but what is fear? Fear is the lack of knowledge of the thing that you fear. That's what fear is, because if you truly understood it, you wouldn't fear it. So it's a circle of fear, but mainly because the source of fear is a lack of understanding. It's a circle of what part of ourselves doesn't understand the other parts. And unless you're a very spiritual person, to a degree much higher than myself, then all of these parts will be in conflict with each other. Now, what the ego fears is chaos nature, because the chaos nature within us all, the possibility of chaos, that basically means that the chaos nature can inflict desire upon us. It is the impulses, the urges that we feel, and it is that which can make us veer off of our plan. And the ego, what inhibits its choice is urge, desire, chaos, the fears that we don't even know we have until they're upon us, or the plan that simply goes awry because we didn't have a full understanding of all the factors, and so we feel lost. And then chaos creeps in through these cracks in the plan of the ego. And since the ego fears chaos nature, it is a it is a fear of yourself. You fear what you are capable of. And even if you're evaluated by the ego, it as the part of yourself that is chaos, even if that part of yourself that is chaos is evaluated by the ego, and the chaos fears the intellect, then it feels like the chaos has an influence in multiple ways upon the ego and the intellect. Now, but most of the time, it's basically chaos nature has a lack of information, a lack of understanding of the intellect, of how it understands because it's so orderly. And then the intellect has a lack of understanding of how the ego chooses. And then the ego has a lack of understanding of why the chaos nature can inflict such great wounds or such great diversions in plans, because it is so new. Every moment is new for the chaos nature. Every moment is based on impulse. So an impulse can change what an ego will do if the ego is too weak to follow the original plan the ego had laid out. And this can happen moment to moment. It doesn't have to be a plan for one's life, or it doesn't have to be a plan for even the week. It can happen from moment to moment. The ego makes a plan. The chaos nature can change that plan if the ego falls to impulse. And the intellect quantifies the chaos nature, but is afraid of what the ego can do if it does fall to the impulses of the chaos nature. So it's a circle. It's a circle. And where the different parts of the circle are at, you can kind of tell yourself. You can kind of understand it for yourself. And you can understand the proportions of the influence that these different parts, these three different parts, have on you. But we must be aware of these three different parts and how, if we don't use them effectively, each can be afraid of each other in a circle. But if we do use them effectively and everything is at a harmony, then the chaos nature has no influence over us. And basically, each one of these pieces keep each other in check in a perfect system, in a harmonious system. But we don't always embrace that system. We don't always know how to embrace a harmonious system or make our three parts fall into a harmony. But through understanding this, we can truly begin to understand ourselves, the different parts that make up a person, make up us. And ultimately, we're mostly founded in the ego, in choice. So we do have a choice in this process. We don't have to let it control us, and we don't have to let chaos nature rule us simply because it has the ability to provide influences through impulse and urges. These things don't have to dominate us because we have the choice not to fall to them. So that's basically all I got to say. I hope this has been interesting to you. This has been a diagnosis, a kind of hypothesis on the diagnosis of the ego, the intellect, and the chaos nature, and how the whole process of their interaction is cyclical. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and please feel free to give me a like if you found this interesting, and subscribe if you want to give me some suggestions. I'm always taking suggestions for videos, and y'all have a great day.